So that is how we can save a preset into the preset menu, which is by using the 1, 2, 3, 4 button, hitting this, and then hitting the plus sign and picking what number you want to save it as. So I'm going to talk next about a variety of different tools that adjust what we're looking at, like what it's different properties that we apply to structures, and all of those have two ways really to access them, either through the visibility menu, which is down here, but we also have something quicker that's called the action menu that I usually like to teach first, just because the action menu is if you're coming up to the table, maybe for the first time or the first time after this training, and you want to adjust something, normally the easiest way is going to be by using the action menu, which is all you do is double tap on a structure. I'm going to turn this off real fast. You double tap on a structure and this pops up. And this is basically a shortcut menu for all of the different things that you can do to structures on the table. For example, if I didn't want the ribs in this image, I could click on a rib and then I could hit the check mark here, and that will make it go away or come back. And then it'll always say the name of whatever the structure is right here. So I could go, okay, let's remove my second rib. Okay, let's put it back. So if I'm talking about the shoulder, I could say, let's remove my humerus so we can see where it's fitting into my scapula, and then hit another check mark to put it back. That's one of 9 different buttons in this action menu. So that's why I said the action menu is kind of the easiest way. A lot of our tools are here. The second one in the line is a really useful one. That one is for transparency. So for example, if I'm talking about the shoulder and I want to see the scapula better because it's important, but I don't want to fully use the check mark to remove the ribs because they're also important, I could use this second one, the transparency button, to turn things see-through. So I could tap the rib, tap the transparency button, my third, just tapping on the rib, and then the action menu, which we originally got to by double tapping. That's how you open that up. And then you could create maybe a view like this where we can see the shoulder through the ribs, but they're still there for reference. And so I could go into my preset menu and hit plus and save this as number 2. And now I have this preset and this other preset that makes the ribs transparent. Underneath that check mark is a silhouette with different lines and words on it. This is an annotation feature. So you can see as I tap on structures, if I tap on the humerus, it says it's the humerus up here. It says it's the humerus up top. But as soon as I tap away, that label goes away as well. So if I want to leave a label on, I could double tap and hit this annotation button, which is what this one right here is for, and you can see now it's blue, and when something's blue on the table, it's on. So the clavicle has this annotation that is stuck to it. Same thing goes, I could maybe annotate my 3 main bones of the shoulder. And now I have this image that has these annotations rooted to the body, even if I tap away or click on something else or something like that. Again, maybe something that's also in my lecture. And now that I've saved this as a preset, if I am maybe giving kind of a basic lecture on the shoulder, now that I've saved it as a preset, I no longer have to go through the work of double tapping and turning on my annotation. If I'm in class, I can just go preset 1, here's the shoulder, preset 2, preset 3, here are the annotations, because now I've saved that. Double tapping again, same menu, but on the other side here is this white square with an arrow in it, and this is called a flat color button. So if I want to point out these three main bones even more specifically, I could try and turn them all different colors. So I could hit my arrow and make my humerus blue. My scapula, I could make the same color or I could make it a different color. And if you hit more colors, there's a lot in here, but there's also a custom color button. So you could really make these any color that you want. What's something? So that is what flat coloring is for. So a lot of instructors will use flat coloring just to point things out. Like in this one, we're highlighting the three bones, but they can also be used in more of an assessment way, like what is the pink bone, what is the yellow bone, or sometimes activities will require students to do flat coloring themselves. Like they'll come up to the table and they'll have to color certain bones, certain colors, and then submit an image of it in some of our activities. So flat color is pretty versatile and it's good for pointing things out. So that I just hit the plus sign and saved as number 4. So now we have this pretty good slide deck about the shoulder that we've been building up. I'm going to zoom in a little more and double tap on my humerus to talk about the next two next to the annotation button here. There are these two, Boney Landmarks and Origins and Insertions are what these two buttons are for. So if that's a part of your curriculum, that's what these two buttons are going to be useful for. So the one in the middle that's red and purple is a Origins and Insertions button. The one on the right that is rainbow is a Boney Landmarks button. So if we are just using our action menu, just double tapping here on the humerus, we can tap on this middle one, and that will turn on all of our Boney Landmarks and all of our Origins and Insertions all at once. I'm sorry, if we just tap on the middle one, it's just going to turn on all of our Origins and Insertions all at once. If we tap on the rainbow one right next to it, that will turn on all of our Boney Landmarks all at once. And then you can tap on the highlighted region to get the name of that origin, insertion, or landmark. As you can see here. So the action menu is very quick way to access Boney Landmarks and Origins and Insertions. It's not the only way. If you do want to just turn on a couple insertions or turn on a couple landmarks and not have everything be rainbow all at once, that is also you can customize it that way, but this is the fastest way to do it, is just by double tapping and hitting these buttons. So for the shoulder, maybe I would want to turn on my Boney Landmarks for my scapula and my Boney Landmarks for my humerus. So I could point out the head of the humerus and tap on this yellow region to point out the glenoid cavity and show that those are the two landmarks that make up that joint, for example. So all of these action menu tools that you get to by double tapping are also available in, this is the basic way to access them. This is the easy, quick way to access them. It's also the less detailed way to access them, I suppose. So if you're looking to get a little more specific with things, that is what the visibility menu is good for. And the visibility menu is this eyeball menu down here. And this menu is good for really choosing exactly what you want to be on screen. So for example, here, I just kind of used my slider bars to remove all my structures except my skeletal system, and then I used my action menu one by one to make each of those 6 ribs transparent. If I was in the visibility menu, what I could do is use the check mark in the bottom left to turn everything off. This check mark down here is an all or nothing. It turns everything off and everything on. It's good to know in case you want to reset your body. So I could turn everything off and just go into my skeletal system, and then I could navigate to my upper limb bones, and I could just turn on my upper limb bones. Or I could even, if I don't want the left side, or I don't want the right side, I just want the left side. Down here, you can see the L is blue and the R is blue. If something blue is on the table, that means it's on. So I could hit the R to turn my right bones. Can't really see it. Hit the R to turn my right bones on and off.
It's a little bit misleading, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's...
Upper limb bones don't include the scapula and clavicle, but that's fine.
Which category would you put the scapula and clavicle under?
Oh, they're the girdle, the pectoral girdle. Do you have that separately? I don't think you do. You have pelvic bones, but not the pectoral girdle.
Yeah, I believe they're
We'll just need to know that. That's fine.
They might be segmented different. I would have to check.
That's okay. We'll figure it out because we can see right here on the right side which ones are check marked. Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
upper limb, we will see that those are included, so that's fine.
Yeah, and okay.
Some little details here, but that's okay. It's fine.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, we just keep notes of like any feedback we get ever, so I'm just writing it down.
Oh,
no, it all gets recorded because it's important to know if something's not, that we can always fix things. We release updates every year, so if there's ever anything that you think should be changed, we can make a note of it.
Thank you.
Okay. So in this case, yeah, our upper limb bones are going to include all of these. And then I could also turn on my rib cage if I wanted to. And then in the visibility menu here, there's this A button and there's this rainbow wheel button. The A button is an annotation button. So the same as this annotation button here that we used in the action menu, the one right under the check mark. In your visibility menu, we have this letter A, which is what we use to annotate. So either way, they work the same. However, in the visibility menu, you can annotate whole categories at once. So if I wanted to get very specific, I could annotate all of my upper limb bones at one time, which does get a little bit heavy over in the hand. But in the upper limb here, in the lower limb, and then next to it is a rainbow wheel menu, and the rainbow wheel menu is the same other visual properties that we were able to adjust using that action menu. For example, you have the flat colors. Let's turn my spine on too here. You have, but maybe not. Don't need all this stuff down here, do we? This is how you can kind of make these specific views. I'm like chopping off vertebrae I don't care about by just hitting their check mark. So in the rainbow wheel menu, You have the ability to flat color. I'm on the rainbow wheel menu for the rib cage, so this would apply to the whole rib cage. So I could turn my whole rib cage yellow. Or what might be more helpful in this case is I could turn my whole rib cage transparent all at once. And like I mentioned before, if you access things through the visibility menu, we're able to get more specific and more detailed. So I'm able to make my entire ribcage transparent all at once. I'm also able to use this surface slider bar to adjust how transparent the ribcage is. I could make it more opaque or more transparent using this slider bar. So I'll often use the transparency. Sometimes I'll use it, I'll hit my rainbow wheel menu for the whole skeletal system, and I'll make my whole skeletal system transparent if I'm trying to show something that's not in the skeletal system, because I think the skeletal system can be good for a frame of reference, but also really gets in the way of seeing more internal structures. So you're able to make your whole skeletal system transparent, or just your rib cage, or like we did before, just one rib at a time. And same goes for flat colors. So this visibility menu is this is where we get all of our details. So for example, if I just wanted to turn on a single muscle, I could always look for my left biceps brachii muscle by searching it in the search bar and just turn on that one muscle. Go back and make my spine transparent, make my ribs transparent, and maybe have this now I have this more detailed view. Which I can also save as a preset. I always just pick the next number. You can make it whichever number you want. Okay. Okay. So, like I mentioned before, these presets are kind of like, I consider them to be almost like a slide deck because you can switch through them, but they're still interactive. So, if I've spent my time here and I've made these presets about the shoulder, and now I'm done and I want to work on something else or I want to leave, you always want to save your presets. So there are two ways to save presets. You can use whichever way you prefer. I normally recommend the first way I'm going to show you, which is by exporting your preset file. So when you're done working and you have all your presets, whether it's 6 or whether it's 50, you can select all the ones you want to save and have them be grouped together. And then these two buttons light up. So you can select them one at a time with their check marks or with their numbers, and then or you could select all of them at once by hitting the check mark down in the bottom. And then you can hit this export VPF button. And what this will do is it will export your preset just to your computer, the computer in the table. So this VPF is a visibility preset file. That's what that stands for. It's just a file type that we invented that only opens up on the table. So what a lot of institutions will do is they'll make a folder on the desktop, maybe with your name or the name of your class. So my class is called Online Training. And then you can go into there and save your preset. slash. And that's now it is locked up on that location on the desktop. So even if someone else comes in here and they delete all of the presets out of the bank and they reset the body back to normal, which I can do by hitting this rainbow undo button to undo all the visual changes like flat color and transparency. And then I can use the check mark to turn everything back on. If you come to the table now, you can go into your preset menu and you can hit the button right above Export VPF, which is Import VPF, and then navigate to wherever you saved your preset file to. Or if you saved it maybe on a flash drive. But these load back into the software and they just open right back up in this menu. And then you can use them again.
Jordan, when you go back to them, like with import VPF, are they still going to be interactive or are they?
Yep, yeah, they're exactly the same.
Okay, great, thank you.
And that is the reason why they only work in the software. So if you exported that VPF and you sent it to a student, they wouldn't be able to open it or look at it. It's really only opens if you import the VPF with this specific button. Okay. So that is that's the way I recommend saving them because I think it's a little more intuitive. It's what we're used to because everyone already knows how to use the Windows Save menu. Alternatively, we are able to have folders in the software as well. So there's this folder icon. It doesn't look like a button, but in the bottom right-hand corner of your preset menu, there's this folder icon. And here you could make folders that save within the software itself. So I could make a folder for my class. And there's also the option to lock it if you would like to. And then I could select all my presets, and instead of exporting VPF, you can always hit add to folder. And then save into here as well. So these save just in your preset menu right here. I think the downsides of saving them this way would be that it's saved within the software, so you have to, like if you wanted to send it to someone or something like that, you would still have to export it. And also, if you have a lot of presets saved in this folder, like let's say you each have your own class, you each have 10 units, each unit has 10 presets, and you all save them in folders in the software. Every time you open this cadaver, it has to prepare all of those presets in case you want to open them, which can also increase the loading time. So just a thing to note. If you have a couple, it's not going to make a difference. Like maybe you have one you use a lot or one that you like to have easy access by having it be right here. But if you're planning on having a lot of presets, it'll probably in the end serve you well to export them so that the software doesn't have to have them all ready to go just in case. You just load them in one at a time as you need them. If that tracks. So I will delete this. What we can also notice here, well, I guess any questions about like saving or exporting presets or how to save your work?
No, it's pretty good. Thank you.
Good. Sweet. Okay. Also in this, I like to point out, so we have this Anatomage created folder. Have you looked at this at all?
No.
Okay, great. This is just a bunch of presets that we made that you are welcome to use if they're helpful. So in here, it's broken up by system, and then there's a bunch of presets in each system. So if I'm doing this lecture on the shoulder, I could go ahead and see what we have relevant to the shoulder. So I could go into my muscular presets, and this is just going to pull up any preset about the muscular system on the Asian male that Anatomage made for users. So looks like this is a lot of like lower limb. Let's see. I can keep going down, and then shoulder. Okay, we have extensors and shoulder flexors, so maybe I want to click my shoulder extensors preset, and that will pull up this, which is just something we made. That might be relevant to you, it might not be, but if it is, you're welcome to use it. So in this one, for example, maybe I like that the structures are annotated, but I don't like that they're flat colored because I prefer like a natural rendering. I could always go into my visibility menu, and that undo button is the one that undoes the transparency and the flat colors. So I could undo all that and then hit plus and save this as my 7th preset. And now I have this preset in my lecture that I really didn't have to do any of the work to make because Anatomage already pinned out all of the shoulder extensors for me and annotated them. So that's what these presets are good for, is just if it's helpful, but you don't have to use them. So I could also pull up maybe one about my rotator cuff. And this is muscular system, but we also have all of the systems available in here. So if looking through these on the menu is kind of, you have to load up the scan and pull it open. So with the table, we actually shipped you a bound book called Segmented Curriculum. That book is all of these presets. It's just a photo of them and a list of everything they annotate. So if you're wondering if we have something, you could always check the book first before diving through the scans. I will also follow up after this training in an email and include a digital version of that PDF with all of them.
Thank you.
So, glenohumeral joint, my favorite, might be good to add, so I could make this my number 8. You're getting the gist here. I like if the Anatomy Educated presets are helpful, glad they're helpful. If they're not, no worries, they're there. You don't have to use them unless you want to. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's go back to my first preset all the way from the beginning to look at some so that's kind of all I'm going to talk about with the visual properties and the visibility menu and turning things on and off. So is there anything from there you want to see again, or just take a minute to try and build something yourself, or are you good?
And using the scalpel will do it still, or the red one?
We'll do
it. Okay.
Wait, we'll do what? I'm sorry, I missed the question.
This icon here with the red scalpel, yeah, that one.
Yeah. Oh, you just want to go through that one?
Yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah, so the red scalpel's the dissection tool. I'll pull some structures up so we have something to dissect. Though it will dissect whatever you have on screen. You don't have to have the full body available to use the dissection tool. It'll dissect whatever's there. So the dissection tool, you open it up, and like the clipping tool, it has this custom dissection ready to go. It's in blue, which means it's on, but there's other options. The custom dissection, the first one, is probably the one that you will use the most. So in that one, you can drag your finger along to make some kind of enclosed shape. Here, it's just a big rectangle out of the abdomen, upper abdomen, lower chest area. and then you just tap inside of it, and what it does is it thinks about removing every structure within that shape you drew, and just removing the part of the structure that is within that shape you drew. So now it'll say select a structure to remove layer by layer, and as you tap a structure, it will name it, like left external oblique muscle, and it will remove it for you. So I can go through and my different layers of muscle on each side. And now we are into this kind of cavity. And as I click, it'll remove the liver or the omentum or the spleen, but you'll see we're just removing the part that is in this cavity. And if you remove something and you didn't mean to, like for example, if I tap the stomach but I didn't want to, I can hit the word undo and that will put it back, and I can tap, maybe I meant to tap the mesocolon instead. And as we go through here, we're just removing, so all of these structures are still on the side and we're just removing from the middle. So when you're done dissecting, you can just hit the X if you want to keep your dissection, because now it'll just keep the dissection data, and you can maybe peel back some layers and look at where your dissection was, what parts of the body you've dissected. And then if you hit the dissection tool again, it'll just open back up and you can keep going if you want to.
Okay.
So this is a tool that's good for either, some people use it to mimic procedures, some people use it to show, to kind of give examples of dissections or examples of surgeries, or some people use it just to explore certain regions. If you want to trace out an abdominal quadrant and just see what's in that quadrant, the dissection tool would be a good way to just explore what is in a specific region. And when you're done dissecting, there's the red undo button, which puts everything back all at once. Okay. A tool that is kind of like the dissection tool but is less specific, I suppose, is the removal tool. So in this silhouette with a question mark right here, this is what's called the Explore tool. So the Explore tool has 3 tools within it. So that'll happen sometimes on the table. It's like you hit one button, and then once you hit that button, you get 3 more buttons. That's kind of how the Explore tool works. So this silhouette with a question mark right down on the bottom opens up. You get your Explore tool, and then the Explore tool has 3 different options. The first one is a removal tool, which is the one that I consider to be kind of similar to the dissection tool. So if you tap on the removal tool, now you can tap on any structure on the body and it will just remove it for you and name it. So for example, my external oblique muscle, my internal oblique muscle. So we're still removing the same things as before, but now we're not in just a specific region in the abdomen. We're just removing the whole structure all at once. So if you ever want to get rid of some things really fast, get something out of the way, or explore through a region of the body, the removal tool is also a good option. What the Explore tool has, the removal tool has that the dissection tool doesn't have, is that it also pops up this, if you see, this was the button we hit to open the removal tool. And then down here on the bottom is it looks the same, and you tap on that, and it will take all the structures you've removed and it puts them on the other screen. So now, see, if I remove the liver here, the liver is going to appear on the right monitor. And these are synced up, but they don't have to be. So if you want to, you can hit this blue sync button. And now I could flip this around, maybe not this way, and show the opposite perspective as I continue to remove things. So that's kind of the difference with the removal tool. It's more for getting things out of the way, but then you can also open it up side by side. Okay. Then there is this list icon down in the bottom right. And this will give you a list of all the structures that you have removed. And then you also have the option to put them back onto the main body if you want to. And then when you're done with the Explore tool, you can just tap off of it, and then you're good to go. So that is the removal tool. The one on the other side of it here is the opposite. This is called the highlight tool or the isolation tool. So when this one is on and this one is blue, you can tap a structure and it will make all other structures transparent. So you can just quickly focus on it. If you tap it a second time, it'll make all other structures invisible and you can just look at that one structure as if it's the only one you have on the table. And then if you tap it a third time, it'll bring everything back. So kind of the opposite of the removal tool. If you just want to really highlight something, point something out, you can tap on your isolation tool and tap on whatever structure you're looking to focus on. Then everything comes back. For this next, so there's the three things in the Explore tool. There was the removal tool and the highlight tool. And there's this one in the middle. For that one, it concerns blood flow. So I would want to change this view to look at our cardiovascular system. So I'm going to go into my visibility menu. I'm going to turn everything off and just turn on my cardiovascular system. And then for reference, I like to turn on the skeletal system like I mentioned before, but then use the rainbow wheel menu next to the word skeletal to make it transparent. So now we know where everything is, but we can still really focus on the cardiovascular system, which is what I want to talk about. So that's one example of kind of how I use that rainbow wheel to make things transparent, is to create views similar to this one. Sorry, my team viewer lags about 3 seconds behind your actual table. So if anything ever jumps around, it's because I'm just always guessing how much to zoom in and out. Because I have a bit of a lag on my computer. Okay, great. So in this Explore tool here, this middle one is for blood flow. So I tap on that. And now I can tap on any vessel in the body and I will get the blood flow through that vessel to or from the heart. So I could tap on maybe this vein in the arm and you can see we get these blue dots that are tracking the blood flow from that wherever I tapped to the heart. If I tap the icon in the Explore tool a second time, it will just make everything a brighter blue, so it's easier to see, it's easier to track that path. And then if I tap it a third time, it just annotates all of the vascular structures we're going through. So from the basilic vein to the superior vena cava, what other veins or arteries are we passing through? So that's the 3-step process of the Explore tool. And the same rules go for arteries. So I could tap next. Where is there an artery? Maybe right here, and you can see that's a lot of annotations because the blood flows through a lot of structures, but let's get this guy. We have this blood flow all the way to the heart. We have it all in red, so this is a pretty intense blood supply, but if we wanted to, we could look at every single artery that we're going through. That blood flow Explore tool is also one that we can access in the action menu. So if you ever double tap on a vein, you'll see that we get that action menu we got before with the same things like annotation and transparency and flat color, but we also have this blood flow icon, and this icon does the exact same thing. So you can use the blood flow Explore tool either from the Explore menu, or you can just double tap on a vessel and you'll get this other, it's the same thing, just 2 ways to get to it. I like to show you both in case you forget one of them, maybe you remember the other one. Any questions about the Explore functions down here?
No, very good. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Next, I would want to show you all of the functions that are in our layout menu. So all the way up at the top here, the second from the top actually is a layout tool. You see I'll tap on that and we get a good amount of options within it. So the first layout is just 3D. That is what we're in right now. It's a 3D body. The next one is 3D and 2D. So when you tap on that one, just the second one in the line, it will pull the 3D body on the left, and it'll put the 2D slice data I mentioned at the beginning. The actual photos of the real cadavers come up on the right side. And these 2 menus can talk to each other. So if I tap the liver on the cadaver, it'll pull up a good slice of the liver on the slice data. And vice versa, if I tap maybe, let's go through and can tap my right lung, or this is actually my left lung, on the slice data, it will make my left lung turn blue on the body. And we have it pretty well segmented, so you can tap around and identify different muscles and structures in the slice data. Slice data is actually also a good part to look at some of the cadavers unique pathology. For example, you can see the left lung here or the right lung is collapsed. So this cadaver died of pneumonia, so he has a pneumothorax in his right lung, which is pretty easy to spot on the slice data. We do have like a list of all the cadavers' pathology and more detailed information about each of their bodies. So if you are looking for like what is everything weird about the Asian male, we do have a list of everything about him. And then there is this button down here. So this slider bar is how we move through the body. That updates with this orange rectangle that tells you where that slice is from. Next to that slider bar is just a list of different planes. So if you want to look at a different cut of the slice data, we have all these different planes available. Another unique part of this cadaver's pathology would be just how large his liver is. He has hepatosplenomegaly as well as a complication of his leukemia. So you can see that here too. Just a giant liver. It's so big. It's nuts. Okay. Next, so we're still in this layout menu. The first was the 3D, and then we did the 3D and 2D. The third is just the 2D. So if you just want to look at the slice data, you can do that. Scroll through it, pick a different orientation, or you can hit the brain slice icon down here and look at all three at once. So, and that was this button right here at the bottom when we're in the 2D layout. You can pick to look at all three of them. So in a more advanced course, this is really good for, getting really specific, identifying and visualizing different regions of the body. Or for a more basic way, this is a good way to just show the different anatomical planes in a kind of a unique, real way for students to visualize the three anatomical planes of the body. So, and these all also talk to each other. So the liver in one, you'll get the liver highlighted in all three. So I mentioned right at the very beginning of the training that you can access case library, histology, and prosection in the main menu. If you want to access it from within gross anatomy, you do that through this layout menu and you pick the fourth one, which looks like a histology slide, but it actually is for histology and prosection and case library. All three of those tools are located on the fourth tab of the layout menu. And it will automatically just open up histology. But then you can also choose prosection or case library from there. Okay. So the unique part of opening these three features, histology, prosection, and case library, one of the benefits of opening them through gross anatomy, like I've just done, where I go into the layout menu and I pick the fourth one down, is that this is a linked library. So if I click on a structure on the cadaver, like the humerus, it's going to pull up a slide that shows whatever type of tissue I clicked on. So for example, I click the humerus, I'm going to get a slide of cortical bone. I click the, I don't even know what, this is some weird cartilage. I click the liver, I'm going to get a liver slide, as well as some suggested slides down at the bottom. anything we have relevant to whatever structure you clicked on will just populate for you down here. If anything ever is annotated like this, with the H and the T and all these, you can hit the info button, which is an eye with a circle around it, to get the details of those annotations. It is important to note that these slides are not from our actual cadavers. So if you're expecting maybe some kind of cell irregularity because this cadaver has leukemia, these aren't their cells. They're donated or otherwise acquired, but they are linked so you can compare them.
Normal.
And then if you ever want to look more detail, this is our the slide deck button is our full library. So we have a bunch of histology slides that you can explore. You can search by tissue type, or you can search by organ system, or you can just search in the search bar. So that's histology. The next one down the line is this middle one, which is our prosection. So prosections similarly are just donated. These are 3D images of organs. So if I click on my liver, it's going to, because this is linked, it's going to suggest some relevant structures, in this case, all livers. And I can click on them to render this 3D image of this organ. And unlike the cadaver, I can't cut into this or dissect it or anything, but you are able to look at it from all angles and get the context of what these organs look like when you do just take them out of the body and plop them on a table. The prosections also have this, the info button, same as the histology slides had, but above it they have a list which gives you a bunch of different annotations. So all of our prosections will have the main visible sections annotated, so you can get all of these lobes, or if we can identify any valves or ducts or ligaments if it's something else. So if you go into the slide deck to look at the full prosection menu, we have a lot. It's kind of creepy in here, a lot of heads and brains and hearts. But as well as like a knee replacement and some different kind of joints, ligaments of the shoulder. The last one in here is the case library. So the case library, again, you can open it by itself, and if you open it by itself, there's more you can do with it. There's more features. But if you open it within Gross Anatomy by using the layout menu, you'll get this linking feature. So I can click on the humerus, and it's going to give me structures related to the humerus. For example, this third one is a shoulder dislocation. And then case libraries also have these slider bars, which are kind of, they're more so like density. So you can see as I pull it back, we're really only seeing the densest part of the body. And as I pull it forward, we're getting more and more dense, whereas now I have muscle, which I don't want. So you can adjust it. The bottom one is more of a fine tuning, so I could use the small one to fine tune out. And now I can see this 3D, it's a CT scan of an actual patient that's now rendered. I pull this up every time. I'm always so stunned by how painful this looks. Like that is just not where your bone goes. That is not right. Case library, we also have a full library. I know you've poked around in it a little bit already. So you can search by region, specialty, segmentation. The other will have some animal scans, we'll have some comparison scans so you can look at multiple scans side by side. If you open the case library by itself, so not within gross anatomy.
Before we go there, Jordan, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
but
go ahead.
show me in here, how do you get into description? I see the image, but I know there's also the case description.
Yeah, it's this info button.
Oh, okay, so it's the same.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and you can access, that's a good question. If you're looking at a case library scan, the info button will tell you the case information, or when you're just in the library and you're about to open up a scan,
Yeah.
it'll also give you the case information. So if you
Yeah,
look,
I got it from there,
Yeah.
but this is more convenient because as you talk about the structure or organ, you can also directly, easily and quickly get to the case. That is what I like. Thank you.
Yeah. And the detail and depth of the information buttons will really depend on which scan you're in. Sometimes we have a lot of information and sometimes we don't. It just depends because these are kind of depends what we were given. But for this one, we have a good amount of information about the person. Okay. And yeah, so case library is something that I'm going to minimize my table actually and open up another version so I don't have to close out to show you the case library. Save us those 90 seconds each way. I just want to point out with the case library, I don't know what a good, I know there's a lot of good scans. Let's just look at our brain here. This is an MRI. If you open the case library by itself, like I'm doing right here, where you just go, there will be more features. So here in this case library, if I'd open this side by side, I'd really only be able to look at the outside of the brain. But now that I'm in my case library by itself, I can even, sorry, my table lags. I can even apply, a clipping plane through the body and look inside of it. So now you can see I can see inside the brain, which is a bit of a better view than from the outside. We'll also have different volume renderings, so sometimes these can help you visualize things better. Maybe this one's like a little bit easier to see. And we have guides on all these different renderings. And then as well, if you're in the case library, you can hit the case library. The info button's still here, like we mentioned. But underneath it, you can even access the 2D and 3D, which in this case will show you either the CT or the MRI, depending on if it's a CT. So this one's an MRI, so we're looking at the MRI on the right screen. If it was a CT, we'd be looking at the CT scan on the right screen. So just some added tools that you get if you open the case library by itself that can sometimes make it easier to locate pathology and point things out to students, especially if you're looking at something that's a little more internal, maybe like a soft tissue mass or a growth or something. Having the ability to cut open the body is pretty helpful for pinpointing things like that. And you just can't cut it open when you're in gross anatomy because it's just not a feature that's available there. And we can see his brain. Squiggly. So for example, I don't know, this one is right here ready to go. Case library scans open a lot faster, as you can tell. So we have in this, because this is a CT scan, you'll see we have all these different renderings. So right now it always opens with opaque hard tissue, which is good for seeing bones, good for seeing like hardware implanted. But if you're looking at something that's a little bit softer, you might want to be able to visualize your soft tissue. There's a lot of different, you have to play around with it a little bit to get comfortable with it. Or sometimes you want to make everything opaque and then use your clipping tool to like cut the body open. This is really just showing us the internal of the lungs, but depending on what you're looking for here, I don't think, yeah, we can get, just makes everything very opaque here. And then again, if you're in a CT, you can look at the CT on the other side. Anything about the different layout menu features, case library, all this stuff?
No, I think it's all good for now.
Okay, good. I know it's like a ton of information. We're at about like an hour and 20 minutes here. So if at any point you want to take a break or something, just let me
Yeah.
know and I can just hang out and wait until you're done.
Yeah, maybe 5 minute break or
Okay.
so 10.
Yeah, that's good with me. I will let's see. Okay. So we just went through the layout menu, correct? So, what else? What else do we got? So, for a lot of helpful information is in the tool right above the layout menu, which is the Learning Assistant tool. Learning Assistant just provides a bunch of extra helpful information about any structure on the table. I was just trying to pull in some. Okay, let's see here. Trying to get some stuff so I can show you all the different things that this tool can do. Okay, so Learning Assistant, this is such a weird view I made, but it's going to be helpful, I promise. So Learning Assistant is this book with a magnifying glass on it, and this is just going to tell you relevant information about any structure you select. So for example, if I click on the deltoid here, it's going to give me origin, insertion, blood supply, innervation, and action. If you click on the gray arrow next to one of those words, that will just give you the details. So here are the actions performed by the left deltoid. Or here are the locations of origin or locations of insertion. That is what the gray arrow is for. In addition, if anything is ever underlined, like origin, insertion, blood supply, and innervation are all underlined here, you can tap on the underlined word to get a visual. So if I tap on the word origin, it's going to show me the locations of the origin of the left deltoid. Same for insertion. You tap on the word, tap on the arrow, you'll get the actual text. You tap on the word, it's going to show you. Blood supply follows the same rules here. So those are the things it can do on muscles. If you're on an organ, you'll get much of the same, but you'll get function instead of action. And if you click on a bone, you'll get articulations and connected structures. And if you tap on a vessel, depending on the vessel, you'll get supplies, which will tell you what structures that artery or vein is responsible for supplying. So Learning Assistant, you're welcome to just have it open, and then whenever you don't need it anymore, you can tap it to make it go away. And that's a tool that's only available in our gross anatomy. So you won't have that quite yet in things like learning or high resolution regional scans or physiology, but as long as you're in gross anatomy, you can get that learning assistant information for pretty much any structure that we have. Okay. Moving down the line, sometimes it's nice to do things at the table and save presets and have activities and lectures right on the table. Sometimes it's more helpful to create content to use elsewhere, like maybe you want to make an image for a worksheet or a PowerPoint or a quiz. So you are able to make any images you want and also save them as photos. A tool that goes really well with that camera ability is the one right underneath it, which is a pen tool. So the pen tool is right here, and it opens up this pen menu. There's 4 different colors that are automatic and ready to go, as well as a custom pen that you can make any color or size that you want. So you can tap on a pen. If it's blue, that means you're using it, and then you can tap and drag to draw directly on the table. So for example, here I'm using the 4 colors that just come with the table to point out the different joints in the shoulder. You can also tap and drag. You can click the arrow tool and click and drag to draw an arrow of any length. And there's also a text box, so you can tap the text box, tap the table, and input annotations of your own, or if you want to point something out. If you want to adjust any of that, there is a settings in here where you can change your custom pen, and you can change the size and color of the text as well. The reason I say that the pen tool goes really well with the screenshot or the screen capture is because the drawings don't link to the body. They're more so rooted on the screen, so you can see if I move the body, my drawings are still here. So not as useful for like a dynamic lecture where you're moving around a lot, but great for creating static images or having students create study material or anything, or just to point something out quickly and then erase it. And the screen capture tool is just right above the pen tool, so they're right next to each other. And you can take a screenshot with the icons, a screenshot without the icons, or the third one is a custom click and drag to pick a region. And these save, like anything else, just to the desktop of, or the file explorer. So if you wanted to save these onto a flash drive and then put them anywhere you want, you're welcome to. They save as JPEGs, PNGs, kind of more straightforward. And again, that was the pen tool to do the drawings, and the one right above it is where you can take your screenshots. And these as well will save as presets, so I could make this number 9, and now I got this version of, maybe I have my this image I made to point out, okay, here is the glenohumeral joint, and then I have this preset I pulled from Anatomage Created that goes into the different bones and ligaments of that joint. When you're done, you can just either use the eraser to specifically erase part of your drawings, or you can just hit clear and it will get rid of everything. Let's see, what have I created in here? Okay. Made so many of these now, I don't even remember what they are anymore. Okay, how about this one? This one looks good. So another way that instructors use the table a lot is to do assessments or quizzes. So there's a couple different ways to give an assessment on the table. There is our actual quiz mode feature, which generates quizzes that students can take and answer right on the table. Or there's a more lab practical style approach in which you can pin bones and muscles with pins, and then students can come up and look at the pinned body and identify things that way. For doing pins, the pin tool is right here, right above the volume orientation icons we talked about at the beginning. Right above them is the pin tool. Looks like a pin. That opens up, there are 5 pin types to choose from. And each pin type has numbers 1 through 10. So there are 50 different pins, but you can't have like a pin 11 or a pin 12 because there's only the 50 pins. Okay. So if you want to use a pin, you can tap on, I like to use the ones that are little stars. You can tap on the pin and then just tap where you want it to go. And then you can move in the red box to change the location of the pin, whether it's side to side or up and down. And then you can use the yellow dot at the top of the pin to adjust the angle. And then when you want to place another pin, you just tap it again, tap where you want the second pin to go, and it will automatically just give you the next number. And sometimes it's helpful to rotate the body to change what direction you're looking at the body at, so that way you can put the pins in a little more seamlessly, and then you can rotate it back. And that way you can create views like this, where you have different bones and muscles pinned like you would on a physical lab practical. Any questions about the pin tool?
No, it's great. Thank you.
Good. If you are going to give a lab practical, right now it would be kind of easy because all a student would have to do is tap on the structure and they'd get the answer. We do have a feature for that. It's called Feature Lock. It's in the settings right above the home menu, the settings button here. You can see we have a bunch of different stuff going on, but one of them is called Feature Lock. And in here is where you can lock the table so students can't. I'm going to save this preset first before I go in here, just before I forget. So you can go in here and go to Feature Lock, go to Options. Options lets you control what the students are allowed to do. So they can be allowed to maybe use image control so they can rotate and zoom in and out. And you can allow them to switch between presets because maybe you have one preset with questions 1 through 4 and a second preset with questions 5 through 10. And then when you lock the table, you hit enable, and then it has you put a password in. And now if a student comes to the table, they can still rotate the body to see where all the pins are and identify the different bones. But if they tap, they can't get any of the answers. And if they try to use like the visibility menu, for example, it's going to say that the table has to be unlocked for them to use it. But because we've still enabled presets, if there was another preset, they could switch between and answer more than one image's worth of questions. And then Feature Lock turns off the same way it turns on. You just disable it from the settings menu and put in your password, and then you are in a fully interactive version of the table again. So that is how I would give a lab practical using the table. When you're done with the pins, you can just delete them. There's also a model for a needle and a syringe, in case that's helpful to show something. If it's not, you don't have to use them, but that's what the last two things in this menu are just models of needles and syringes, more so helpful for like our nursing and healthcare programs. But so that was the lab practical way to give assessments. The other way would be using quiz mode, which is in this flashcard deck right here. So when you open up quiz mode, the first thing it does is make a quiz out of all of the structures. It makes a quiz out of all of the structures that are just currently visible. Right now it's 35 or 34 structures, which is probably not, maybe we just want to quiz on a few of those. So to customize your quiz, you hit the word customize, and that brings up a menu that looks just like that visibility menu that we've been using since the beginning. But now, instead of a annotate button, you'll see if we go into the limb bones, instead of an A next to all these structures, we're getting a plus sign. And that's how you add questions to your quiz. So if I wanted to quiz on my humerus, I could tap on my humerus and hit the plus sign, and now it has an annotation. That means that this is now a question on my quiz. And I can do that for all the questions I want to quiz on. So I can add my plus sign on my clavicle, plus sign on my scapula. Maybe this question is on bones, so I don't really need my bicep on. Turn that off. And then once you've added whatever questions you want and you've gotten your quiz to look like what you want it to look like, which I am over rotating because I still am having like a 3-second lag on my version of your table. Come back. That looks good. You can hit add to quiz. So that's an important step that people forget sometimes. You can't just hit the plus signs next to all your quiz questions and hit continue. You also want to hit add to quiz and save it as preset 1. And then it will say that that preset already exists, but the preset in this case that you are replacing is the preset that had like 35 questions. So that's kind of how it works, is it automatically just makes preset 1 with whatever structures you have on the table. And then if you change that at all, if you customize it, you add some things, you add some questions, you remove some questions, you'll want to override preset 1 with the preset you made to get your quiz saved. And because of that feature, you can even add in, like you could add in your upper limb muscles here and add some questions on the muscles and save that as quiz view number 2. So you can have, maybe now I want my bicep and my deltoid and my subscapularis muscle. Let's add these 3. Add this to my quiz as number 2. That's how you can build up multiple views in your quiz if you want to. We have these 3 questions, these 3 questions, 2 views, 6 questions total. So once you've built that and so you open it up, you changed your views, you hit the plus sign next to the structures you wanted, and then you hit add to quiz. Now you can hit continue to do your quiz settings. So for example, this would be, my shoulder quiz. In the Asian male cadaver. And then you can adjust settings by hitting the settings button. Things like highlight color, if you want to assign timers or assign points. Just kind of nitpicky quiz details. And then you can start the quiz. And there's 4 types of quizzes. Pick Me is going to be more Pick Me and multiple choice are more assessments. Flashcards and highlight are more for studying. So Pick Me will just say, where's the deltoid? The student has to tap the deltoid. Multiple choice will instead highlight the deltoid and say, is this the deltoid, the bicep, the subscapularis, it'll give you the lat dorsi. It'll give you options. It's a multiple choice. Flashcards will be just like Pick Me. It'll say, find the deltoid. It'll just tell you if you're right or wrong immediately, so it's better for studying and recall. And highlight will just highlight the deltoid and say, what is this? And the student has to recall the information, but there's nowhere for them to input it into the table. It's just really for studying purposes. Pick Me is probably going to be the one that is most popular, so that's the one I'll save this as. And now when I go and I take the quiz, so it'll load it up, I'll hit start, and this is what it will look like for a student taking the quiz. So it'll say identify the structure. They hit confirm, and it just goes to the next one. If they rotate it or anything or zoom in and out before making their choice, just goes back to the start. And then now I had that second view with the muscles, so I have this now. We'll have them get this one wrong, maybe. Students are actually also able to use the removal tool. It's down here. So if they're trying to find the subscapularis, but they're having trouble seeing it, they can remove other structures that they don't think are correct out of the way, and then identify their structure, and then they'll get a results at the end. including, how many they got right and which ones they got wrong and what they input instead of what it was asking for. And all of this information backs up to a location on the table where you can access it as a Excel file. In the follow-up information I send out after the training, we have a bunch of how-to documents. I think the how-to document for quiz mode's a good one to review because there are a lot of steps. So I'll be sure to point that out when I email you later.
Oh, Jordan, I have a question. If I have, say, the student took that quiz, where will the results go? And also, since I have more than one student in class, will that be possible if they take turns taking that quiz and all of that saved?
Yeah, so it'll go to a location on your table in documents called quiz results. And you can see this is the name of the quiz. And you'll get group results. So if you have multiple students who take it, it'll give you the results of the whole group, or it'll have your individual results. So here, for example, I just took this quiz. It'll make this Excel type file of everything I answered, what the question was, if I got it right or wrong. All that information backs up. So you'll have to just make sure students input their names, or you can load up names. And then in the group results, it'll look more like this. So for example, the student's name was here. It would have the number they got right, the number they skipped, and their just all the information about the quiz results. So documents, quiz results are where those automatically will go to. You don't have to save it or anything. It just happens no matter what.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then the other feature of the quiz mode button is game mode. So with game mode, you can load up your quiz, my shoulder quiz here.
I
And
think we tried that and we got everything wrong. So
what?
we tried that mode with the students,
Uh-huh.
the game mode, but we didn't get much correct. So I think it was a preloaded quiz that you had here.
Yeah, if you ever, and especially if you just have the whole body up and it automatically makes a
Yeah.
quiz, that's way
Yeah.
too many structures normally.
Right.
But if you do something like this where you've created the quiz,
Yeah.
and then you go into game mode and you can, I didn't want to customize. You can edit things like timers and how many points things are worth. And then, so you've done the game mode. You get to choose how many players you have. And students can input their names or choose their name from a drop-down list if that is something you've preloaded. And then, it looks like this. So you hit answer, and then I've set it to be 10 seconds. So if you hit answer, you get 10 seconds to locate the humerus and hit confirm. So the most important thing that students sometimes struggle with is that you have to hit answer first. Sometimes they'll just want to be the first one to tap the scapula, but it's like Jeopardy rules. Whoever buzzes in gets the chance to answer. So it's really about being the fastest on the answer button. And then using your 10 seconds to confirm. And then if I hit answer first and player 2 hits answer second and I get it wrong, then it automatically goes to whoever buzzed in second. They get their 10 seconds. Yeah, and that is you can use the same quizzes for quiz mode and game mode, or you can specifically make quizzes and games. You'll just want to save them the same way you save any other preset, either by like saving them in a folder or exporting them as a VPF. And for reasons like that, it's probably a good idea to put that it's a quiz in the name as well as what cadaver it's in the name, so you know where to open it back up. Okay, so in terms of like all of the structure, the main features of gross anatomy, that is about all of them that I like to make sure we go over. If there's anything you want to like see, or if you just want to, we always encourage you to take some time to play around with it while I'm still here in case you think of any questions, or if you want to see any like physiology or anything like that. But this is all the gross anatomy stuff that we like to cover, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know if we want to see physiology. So we just exit application or no? Or do we,
You can just hit physiology.
oh, just straight from here. What do you want to say? Pregnancy? Let's do kinesiology.
You can hit no on that.
Oh, it doesn't. Is it supposed to not do anything or?
Let's see. It could just be sometimes if the table's been running for like a really long time, it just likes to be restarted. So let me see. Okay.
When I was on it for 4 hours, it was talking to.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, sometimes the table just gets a little, if it runs nonstop for like 2 hours or something, it just likes to be restarted. Normally it doesn't run nonstop for 2 or 3 hours unless it's like a training or something like that. So let's see here. Kinesiology has 5 joints currently, and then each joint has about 2 or 3 different motions it can do, and then it has the active muscles which you can light up if you want to. So it loads up looking like this. The 5 joints that you can control are the 5 purple dots, but they're also in that little dialog down here. So if you want to choose a joint, you can either click on the dot itself or you can pick it from the menu. There's like, so for example, we have the knee, and when you click on that, it'll also give you what motions we have available. So in the knee, we have 2. And then once you decide on an actual motion, it will look like this. And then you're able to either scroll through the motion on your own using the slider bar, or you can hit play and just like let it loop over and over again, and that way you can rotate and watch it from different angles. And it'll say at the top what action is happening. If it's flexion, extension, rotation, it says it up here. And then this button right here highlights what muscles are active. So these are the muscles that are doing flexion. You can pause it and see, okay, what muscles are red.
Okay, you can annotate them.
Yeah. And then you can let it play again. It'll tell you
Yeah.
these are the muscles that are doing the extension. So you could take a look there and see what muscles those are. Uh, And then if at any point you want to switch to another joint, you can just go back to this main menu here. And then you have your 5 joints. And like this is the shoulder, so we have 3 motions for the shoulder. Click on one of them, and then same rules here. So that's about, I mean, and then of course, like anything else, you can still like draw and take photos or take measurements and things like that.
Can you measure the angle of motion also?
The angle should, if we're zoomed out, it's kind of hard to see, but the angle should always be there.
Oh, it gives you right away. Okay.
So if we look here, it's changing as we. Yeah.
And so if this was saved as a preset, could you have presets from gross anatomy and presets from physiology and like switch back just right in there?
Gross anatomy, gross anatomy and kinesiology are separate, so they're not interchangeable. But what you can do is kind of what I did earlier with the case library, which is where you maybe minimize kinesiology and open a new window with gross anatomy, and that way you can kind of switch between them. But if you ever want to switch between them like within the same software, you'd have to wait that like 2 minutes every time back and forth. So another thing you can do as well is in the settings, that is where like the feature lock was, there's this button for layout. And this is where actually you turn all the table vertical. If you make the table vertical, you can enable that here. But you can also pop the screen to one side. And you could do that with 2 versions of table and have one on the right monitor and one on the left monitor. And have 2 things open side by side that way as well.
Oh my, that's a lot of features.
I know there's so much to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is sometimes if you're having like a case library scan and gross anatomy side by side, you could use the layout button to just snap the table to one screen or the other. And if you hit enable vertical, that will change where all the icons are. So if the table is stood up in vertical mode, all the buttons aren't at like the very top and impossible to reach.
Mm-hmm.
And sideways. Any other questions?
Not yet. Not until we start using it. And then...
Yeah. And like me and my whole team, we're an ongoing resource. So if you have any questions or feel like you need additional training or want help creating something, like this isn't like a one and done training. You can always email me and we can set up more calls, or I can just answer any questions. But we're definitely here for continual support. It's not just one training. So
okay, great. Thank you. And is it all included, or do we get charged for additional training if we need?
Online we don't charge for.
Okay.
Like online resources. If we
Mhm.
came out there
Yeah.
might be a charge unless you've already have like an in-person training that you're owed. But for online assistance,
So it's all part of the deal then.
yeah,
Okay.
we're just here to help. As right now, that's what our policy is that like we're, we might have to schedule like work around the schedules. We're not like available 24/7 or anything. But like, yeah,
Right.
we won't charge you
Mhm.
for another like any future calls or support.
Okay.
Or if you need help making like an activity or making a
Mhm.
preset, we're happy to
Mhm.
help with that kind of stuff if we have the time.
Yeah,
So
because there would be more specific questions then, because you gave the overview, so we have an idea. But if we actually need something specific, then
yeah, and if
contact
you,
you. Okay.